Ben Friedman, and for the month of December, I am doing my 25 days of movie reviews. This is day 9, and the film we are going to be talking about today is Army of the Dead, directed by Zack Snyder and starring Dave Bautista. Now, I've made it very clear on my podcast that I believe Zack Snyder is a really talented filmmaker, and anyone who's read my review of Justice League knows it's one of my favorite films of the year, and that opinion still stands. But is Army of the Dead able to live up to the hype of Justice League and to the idea of Zack Snyder getting to go back into the zombie universe, which is kind of what started his career? And ultimately, I'm going to say, yes, he's able to accomplish that very well, despite some flaws in the film. But first off, let's just get into the film. And one thing Zack Snyder has always done really well as a filmmaker is able to incorporate the visuals storytelling with the actors. And there's one scene in particular, and it's another thing he does really well, is these opening scenes. The opening scene for this movie, where it's showing the characters, it's setting up Bautista and the group that eventually goes on this heist. It is amazing action. It is, oh my gosh, just some of the gruesome, most gross / most violent zombie killing I've ever seen in this 5-minute sequence of these basically soldiers going in there and quarantining the city of Las Vegas. For those who don't know the plot of this film, it is essentially a zombie outbreak happens and the government is able to contain it all in the Las Vegas area, and they're about to nuke it after a few years of this zombie apocalypse. And in nuking it, they realize that all the money of Vegas is going to be destroyed. So there's this plan and this heist that is led by Dave Bautista and his crew to basically withdraw $500 million and get it out before the nuclear apocalypse happens and destroys Las Vegas. That's the general plot. So the opening scene sets up these characters who will go on the heist, and showing them mowing down the zombies, showing them losing their family, all this. And this sequence is spectacular. It is a fun representation of the Vegas visuals mixed with a over-the-top campy feel that Zack Snyder brings, mixed with this, again, kind of the seriousness that he's able to bring and grounds it back into this just amazing visual representation in the beginning of a film. And quite literally, this is the film that I wanted to see the whole time. If this film had been that tonally and that adventure, I would have been more excited about this film. However, it does take a left turn and it does become a very contrived heist film. And this is not bad per se. It still works as a zombie heist film, and it does have those elements of fun, and it does capture kind of that Ocean's 11 quippy dialogue in Vegas. However, it doesn't feel as impactful ultimately, and that is largely due to the cast surrounding Dave Bautista's character. Dave Bautista gives a great performance in it that is constrained, that shows the pain of this character, that also is able to encompass how great of a soldier he is. It's a very physical performance and not as much comedy as we've seen from Bautista, but ultimately you can tell he's having fun with this role, and you can tell why he likes working with Zack Snyder and why he has been open to working with Snyder more. Besides him, though, the rest of the cast, minus Tig Notaro, I believe is how you pronounce her name, who replaced Chris D'Elius, who was accused of sexual harassment that led to having to reboot the scenes that he's in and recut them, kind of do what they did with Kevin Spacey, where they just reshot his scenes. They have to do something pretty similar with her. She is good on screen as well, but besides those two characters, none of the other characters are really explored in any form of depth, and ultimately when some of those characters inevitably die, without giving spoilers for which ones, the impact is kind of lost. And for a film that's 2.5 hour runtime, when a lot of your main crew dies, that's kind of really harmful to the overall story, because you don't get this keen connection with them. On top of that, this plot is really bad. Watching it, I didn't notice it, but after viewing it and thinking about it, I realized just how poorly conceived this plot is, and how a lot of what happens in the film ultimately doesn't matter. And specifically, there's this character that plays Dave Bautista's daughter in the film, and their relationship should be kind of this the heart of the film, but ultimately it becomes the issue of this character makes a lot of poor decisions that puts him, herself, and the crew at danger, and it just doesn't make sense why they would allow her there and why anyone would put up with her even though she's Bautista's daughter in the film. Now, that isn't to say that there isn't some brilliant stuff in this film. Like I said, Zack Snyder always delivers on top-notch action sequences, and he does that again in spades. The scenes where zombies are present in Vegas, they do just have a flair and direction and violence to them that is pretty amazing to watch. With that, he's also able to just deliver great visuals. The zombies just look stunning. I've never quite seen zombie art done like this. It's something so unique to this film, and he has a lot of interesting way the zombies move and a lot more lore attached to them. But ultimately, while I liked this movie, and I really did enjoy this movie, I understand why people have faults with this movie, and it is poorly conceived in its ideas and a little half-baked. While I went into it knowing I kind of wanted a fun zombie bank heist, the biggest problem is the first 20 minutes of the film are so spectacular that everything else kind of leads down in a downward trajectory, that ultimately the part that I was most excited to see from the trailers is all in the beginning of the film, and then I have to get through the other 2 hours and 10 minutes of this film to get the whole story. And while the story, again, I think is fine, nothing as exciting happens. So you start off with this high, and it kind of just decreases as you go, and it's so long that you have more time to marinate on what you want to see and what ultimately does not end up, what you do not end up seeing. Now, I am still going to give this film a positive review. I think it is still a 3 out of 5 film, mainly on the strengths of just Snyder's visuals, Dave Bautista's performance, and again, just a 15-minute sequence at the beginning of the film that I will probably watch a ton. And cool visuals thrown throughout the film, and enough fun to be had in here that there's going to be scenes that I'm going to be seeking out again, even if I don't seek the movie out as a whole. I'm still giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. After I watched it, I was probably a little higher at 3.5, but I ultimately am going to lead to a 3, because when you break down the movie, the plot does not make sense, and it is poorly plotted out. So with that, that's my review of Army of the Dead. So thank you for listening. Tomorrow I'll be back for, I believe it's day 10 of my Advent Calendar review. So take care, guys. Thank you for listening, and make sure to check out Ben and Brand's See a Movie. I believe the next day or two we'll be dropping our episode of It's a Wonderful Life. So check out our Christmas special, which is entitled Christmas, where we ask, is this a Christmas film? We've already done and The Nightmare Before Christmas. We're doing It's a Wonderful Life. Next week we're doing Die Hard, and then we're ending this with Home Alone, featuring a special guest that if you listen to the podcast, you already know who it is. So check that out. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at the Beniverse, and check out my website, www.bentothemovies.com. So thank you guys, take care, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye. And remember to like and subscribe.